Welcome to SF Commercial Property Conversations with Bruce Bean, where Bay Area investments meet expert insights. Get ready to unlock the strategies of commercial real estate success.
So today we've got Stephen Bloom of Rent TV with us. Now, if you're not familiar with Rent TV, you better get ready because we're going to get you very interested here. So Stephen, give us a little clue of how you got from New York City to Rent TV.
Excellent, Bruce. And thank you for having me on the show. Fan of your podcast. Really honored to be asked. So thanks for having me here today. Well, it's a bit of a journey. I've been like a gym rat for a commercial real estate industry forever. So even in college at Cornell, I was working in the real estate department there, dealing with properties that people would inherit and leave over to Cornell and stuff. So it was really interesting. But after Cornell, worked for developers in New York City, Far City Ratner. Had friends who knew the partners there and got me in there, and I was doing analyst work, and we were building stuff in Brooklyn, and they were starting to get approvals on 42nd Street, and they just finished Pierpont Tower in Brooklyn. So, it was a mixed bag of analysis work, dealing with brokers, trying to make deals on sites we needed for the developments that we were building, making deals with tenants. It was pretty crazy in downtown Brooklyn, but great experience. And we used Cushman & Wakefield on all of those projects. And, in New York City, it was Cushman & Wakefield at that time, right? So I had my eye on Southern California. Didn't want to get stuck in New York. And so started interviewing with some of the brokerage teams in Southern California and drove out when I was 25.
Oh, wow.
Started working in the Century City office, leasing office, tenant and landlord rep. And, it was a mixed bag with the brokerage industry back there. It wasn't as specialized. Certainly in a Century City type office, you didn't have the retail specialists or any industrial people. So if something along those lines came down the pike, we would handle it, a parking lot here or there or freestanding retail, location, but mostly office leasing and on both sides, which was great experience. And I did a little cup of coffee at Crescent Partners for a couple of years.
Oh, yeah.
But at that time, it was just before the turn of the century, we were starting to think about media. Felt like there needed to be another cable channel for commercial real estate news instead, Martha Stewart, for commercial real estate. And so initially Rent TV stood for Real Estate News Television. And I went back to business school. I went through the USC Executive MBA program, which was amazing. Shout out to USC. And came out of it with a little bit of seed money, enough to just get me started. And made it Rent TV because people said, you got to go web, cable, you'll spend all the seed money on one pilot and that could last you, a while, get you started, and build a business on the web. So that's the route we went, got some more seed money, hired some people. And then, 25 years later, the ups and downs of the industry, I've had to, you start some things, you learn from some failures. But we started the conference business before the pandemic, which we had to shut down during the pandemic. And now we do 5 events a year: Arizona, Orange County, LA, San Diego, and greater LA. Did I say Arizona, Inland Empire, San Diego? We then also on the Review, the video site, which we'll talk about. And we have our own podcast show where we do interviews with, major owners of properties, which we have sponsors for. And, we're just trying to be that growing media enterprise, that I think the industry needs.
So what happens at one of these conferences? Give us a little summary.
Great. Yeah. It's before the pandemic, I was doing 10 of them. I was doing 4 in Northern California, but now we just do the 5. San Diego's our next one. Then we do LA, make sure I got them, Inland Empire, Orange County, then Arizona. Each one, it's kind of a format I created, giving my background and going to a lot of events where I see a lot of people who have been in the industry, like on the media side or event side, but never really were brokers in the business, with a Cushman & Wakefield. So I thought, I could take that and create what I call high-level, street-level conversations. So I have an office panel, a retail panel, a multifamily panel, industrial panel, and finance panel. And usually like an individual presentation or two, like a keynote. A lot of times we'll have the CoStar market expert for that market come and give a presentation on the different property types, in terms of their stats.
Oh, yeah.
And so we're really trying to, bring in each of my panels, we'll have 3 to 5 panelists and I try to give everyone their own lane. So I might have one or two brokers on the panel, and then two or three, either developers or owners whose name is on the door, or head of acquisitions or head of leasing, and then maybe like a leasing broker or a capital markets broker or a tenant and landlord rep. So everyone's got their different lanes, and we go through. Each panel is about an hour, and we get into the leasing market. Really, I'm not trying to bring in CEOs and swoop them in and give high level conversations. I mean, they're great, but with these panels, I'm really trying to like give the audience real knowledge of what's going on. So we talk about the leasing market, what tenants are doing, what they're paying, the challenges of leasing. It's different for each sector. Obviously with the office
Right.
sector, a lot of it's, are they coming back to work? And is there default, and are buildings being sold, or is the debt being sold, or what's the conversion of use? So you got to modify it depending on the sector that we're talking about. And like a few years ago, retail was in the dumps, and now they're the darling, right? So
Yeah, right. Right.
and it's fascinating how much I learned from just throwing out the questions to these guys on the panel. And then we get into the capital markets discussion, the velocity of sales, what's on the market, what's been sold, the qualities of a buyer, the qualities of a seller, how the financing's working. And then we slide into development if there's development to discuss. What the success of recent developments, where's future development going to occur, the challenges, whether it's zoning or construction costs, all the issues with regard to zoning. And we open it up for Q&A. It's more of just a conversation than a presentation.
So is this a one-day event? How
Yeah.
long? Yeah.
Usually we start around 9, serve a nice lunch, and we wrap up around 3.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
it sounds like it's very informative.
yeah, we really get great feedback on it. The next one, I've got a couple months till the next one, but that'll be January 28th in San Diego. And then we'll be probably doing, I think March 26th will be Greater LA. So, I try to map out the date so I could get it in everybody's budget, because
Yeah.
most of the speakers, they're also, great supporters. And, we have a very high ratio of everyone involved also sponsoring. And it just makes the whole, event better. They bring more guests and just more energy. So,
Oh,
we're
yeah.
pretty good at that. They don't want to make them pay to play, but the way the economics got to work, and I think most of the speakers understand that because they want to support things that are positive for the industry, and so I think we make something that's valuable.
So given all that knowledge, it sounds like you could give us a little rundown. You just mentioned that retail is the hot market right now. So give us a little rundown of the different categories as you see it.
Yeah, and again, I'm a reporter on the sidelines. I'm certainly not the forward kicking the soccer ball down the field. I'm definitely on
Yeah,
the sidelines.
yeah.
But the way, but I'm a good listener. And I would say, and again, it's different in the different submarket. The different, you're going to hear a different story in LA than you will in San Diego or certainly Arizona. But obviously, the effects of a lot of desupplying,
Yeah.
demolition, reusing. A lot of times that you heard people say, we weren't, oversupplied, we were under demolished. So you heard that a lot. Now you hear it with office, and I think people were forced to get creative because of the fear of the internet first and being Amazoned out, and then followed up by the pandemic. So you have different challenges. I mean, in LA, in California, you have crime, and you have homeless, and you have the minimum wage, and you have almost everything they're trying to do to put a retail business out of business, is kind of what's happening, because you drive around nice places and you just see a lot of vacancies, and it's sad,
Right.
but in terms of the real estate market, most of what you'll hear, and only a small part of it are those great restaurants that are freestanding or something in the cities. Most of it are the bigger centers, in terms of the supply,
Right.
and it's tight, especially
Yeah.
in coastal markets. It's tough for retailers to find great spaces. In places along the coast, San Diego, OC, along Ventura County, and you're probably talking, vacancies in 2%.
Oh, wow.
Again, I'm not a broker, I'm not the
Right,
research
right. Yeah.
CBRE, but and I just interviewed Terry Talon, who's a developer, and his feeling on California is basically it's really tough to lose if you own properties.
Oh, interesting.
There's just
Yeah.
if it's a quality center, you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
there's just a lot of demand. There's so many consumers. I mean, whatever happens in the country with employment, you'll still get a lot of people attracted to California who aren't affected by necessarily the employment. They're coming here to live, they're retiring, they're traveling, and
Yeah.
so you have just a lot of retail demand for the different types of uses. Now that's obviously changed. It's not the Sears and the J.C. Penney's, anymore. A
Right.
lot of
Right.
it's,
Right.
healthcare and gyms or pets, or various type of retailers. So it's transitioned, and cap rates have compressed and values have gone up. So it's, the retail sector, they're feeling, fairly good. It's not without its challenges. There's still credit issues. There's still the cost of TIs, which are big
Yeah.
issues.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so, even when you have the agreement, there's still, the TIs, but a lot more big credit tenants looking around for space, and they've got their system. And so yeah, now on the industrial side, that had been the darling. The
Right.
internet benefited them. The pandemic even really benefited industrial, because everyone's getting things delivered, and so the storage needs went up and all the delivery. And but certainly that's had a pullback. And the conferences I was doing right after, um, uh, what was it, Freedom Day? What was it?
Yeah. Right. Liberation Day or whatever.
Liberation
Yeah.
Day.
Yeah.
That seemed to affect the industrial market and the tenants right away.
Uh,
Everyone's froze, in terms of their tenant
right. Right.
requirements. And, the capital sources that were looking to buy properties, I think also put a, freeze, to some extent, but they're more long-term players anyway. So they know tariff thing will come and go, for the major capital investors. If you're looking at a 500,000 foot newly built industrial building as to take it, to buy it from the developer, you're looking past the, tariff situation.
Right. Right.
But I would say since then, it's unfrozen, and it's certainly
Yeah.
going to be different. Like when I do my industrial panels throughout Southern California, there's no space, except for some areas of the Inland Empire where it's still now the growth areas, are further out, Moreno Valley, we're talking, out in the desert.
Right.
And so there's no space. So it's a different conversation, and they're not going to be positively affected by the positive aspects of the tariffs, which is, onboarding major manufacturing facilities that were doing things offshore. If the goal is to bring them, now into the US, California ain't going to get much of that. Arizona's going to get a lot of it, because of the
Yeah.
chip plants there that are already there, the Intel factory there, all the chip industry is huge, and that's a big part of the
Yeah.
conversation. And a big part of the conversation in all these panels was, we're just benefiting in Arizona, was that we're just benefiting from how much California's screwing up. Because everybody's coming to Arizona. I can't tell you. I mean, I think California was almost mentioned as much as Phoenix, in that event. And so you see, so Arizona, it's a mixed bag, but the rents, in the previous years have kind of flattened out. When you take in the fact that they're modified gross leases or triple net leases, and you look at the rents, it's way more profitable even before, the failure in the office
Right.
sector. And then multifamily is just a mixed bag all over the place. I think there was in Arizona, it goes in waves with the overbuilt, and then the supply catches up. California markets certainly don't have those issues, but I think most people, if they own multifamily, they feel good about owning multifamily. It's
True. Yeah.
if you look at just the long term, the supply demand characteristics of that sector, it's just undersupplied. It's just
Right. Right.
undersupplied.
Yeah.
So you may have hiccups in certain areas. Like in LA, the big news is now Rick Caruso's redlined, LA, which, yeah, he's like the last one to do it, because
Oh,
in
wow.
all my panels, they love the fact they own the properties in LA, unless they have a lot of people who are able to not pay rent for like 2 years at a time, because LA has
Right.
been
Right.
so pro, tenant. But, with the ULA tax,
Yeah.
it's killed the industry in LA,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's really hurt the
Yeah.
multifamily sector.
No,
You
the
know,
rent control. Just
the tax, the
yeah.
wealth tax.
Yeah.
Um, And so again, another thing that seems like LA is doing completely, or California is doing 180 degrees opposite of trying to like be business friendly. You look at
Right,
downtown
right.
LA, and it's like what are going to be the solutions for the downtown course? San Diego has downtown San Diego, you think would be amazing. It's got great multifamily properties, but then you look at downtown LA. The high rise still has graffiti all over it. There's graffiti everywhere, from the raids and all the
Yeah,
things that they said
right.
were peaceful. I mean, yeah, maybe peaceful, but still involve breaking glass, torching cop cars, and graffiti everywhere. So you cruise around downtown, let alone the government didn't, and I had this great conversation with Christopher Rising in the interview, if you know Rising Realty and how
I
important they were
don't.
to downtown LA and what a big supporter of his, for the office buildings that he owned down there. And the government, by letting people just stay at home forever instead of forcing them to come back to the office, they didn't just affect themselves. All the retail, all the
Oh,
other
yeah.
office uses downtown, a lot of those state and government controlled office buildings now, that not only would it be difficult to, turn them into multifamily properties, but the lack of care and the lack of upkeep and
Oh,
maintenance
yeah.
makes them almost, impossible to even reuse almost as office space in what's required for a modern office today.
SF's got the same problem. So,
Right.
yeah.
And I
So
think SF, the downtown, doesn't have, has more positives than downtown LA has.
that's true. Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
beautiful. People live right there. It seems like they've done a little bit better job with homeless,
yeah. Well,
keep
the
it,
new mayor has
and the
really
new mayor.
perked things up, no doubt.
He
Yeah.
seems like such a breath of fresh air.
Oh, unbelievable.
Right.
Yeah. No,
And
it's great.
it's easy to criticize, but then you got to say, hey, man, he's such a great,
Yeah.
seems like he really understands what business needs are. And he walks around the streets, and he's doing his, it's really what we need there.
No, exactly. Well,
Yeah.
let's jump back to
Yeah.
Rent TV. So all of this is fantastic information. So how does this percolate in Rent TV?
Well, we're a media, business. So I'm looking to try and grow. We have our podcast, we have our conferences, our news website covers the Western US. I really feel there's an opportunity. I feel my media business, the companies that are out there, I think it could be shaken up a little bit, and so I aim to try and see if I could figure out a way to, get some partners on board, do what we're doing with our conferences, and hire some folks and do those across the country. Get the story of the review, which is going to be the rocket ship for
Exactly.
for videos. Really get out there. I mean, something we didn't talk about. We own the website sublease.com, which was very old programming when I acquired it, and needs to just be put on brand new programming, but that just for a classified ad system for marketing commercial sublease space, and then grow the news website. So I think all of that is pretty straightforward geographic growth, for the most part, I
Yeah.
think, and kind of combining and trying to partner with some of the other companies in the space that do what we do. So I think there's real opportunities there. So
So the whole sublease, particularly in the office world, has expanded pretty drastically.
right. If I could find the right brokerage firm partner to
Yeah.
partner with, to then
Yeah.
rebuild the website, populate it with an initial population of sublease listings, and
Right.
then open it up to the public so they could pay, $10 a month if you're a law firm, and just create your
Right.
own
Right.
listing that has a map and is better than a Craigslist listing, and it's stuff brokers don't want to deal with. So it's like, they're not gonna, they're not, it's stuff that maybe falls below CoStar, right?
Right. Right.
So, it's just going to be the company themselves putting it on there, because a broker can't make commission off a year and a half lease on office space that's challenging to begin with, right? So, because we know the commissions are based on partial, a lot on 5 years and then another 5 years, so
Right.
to try
Right.
and do a year and a half on a half rent doesn't make sense. So I think there needs to be a straight up classified ad, searchable, great working website that people could create the listings themselves.
Well, I think the advantage I see with Rent TV, unlike CoStar or LoopNet, is that you can get a video right away, and and see what's going on. And the videos aren't just
Right.
necessarily property, they're owners, they're brokers, they're other people, all
Yeah, the
different
review is,
varieties.
really a great site. It's the video site. I don't know if we got into, in depth, but that I created that lets people copy in their videos directly from Vimeo or YouTube that they've already created the work for, and lets people then search by real estate tags that we created for the industry. So it's all for free. There's an advertising model behind it where people could own their categories or buy the home screens. But really, we're trying to create a catalog, a library for the industry that grows on its own as people add their own videos to it, and then is a much better mousetrap than YouTube. We're trying to find videos through Google, whereas you could just go on and search through the videos that are in the platform and also follow podcasts. So they could go to, SF Commercial Conversations, go down and go to your channel and just watch each of your videos in a much better mousetrap. The vertical stacking, the text, some of the tools we put under the video screen, link to your website, link to maps. We just think it's a better way of watching videos, but not exclusive. The producers still put them on do the Facebook marketing, the emails, LinkedIn, all those other things. This is just an addition, and you've got kind of a team behind it that is championing real estate videos. We're not just creating the tool. We're behind it, making sure the search tags are right, making sure it's real estate videos, because it's also the tool, but it's also the experience of the people coming on watching videos who are busy real estate professionals, don't have a lot of time. They're searching for a video. If they don't find it and they get a phone call or an email, they're out. Right? They're done.
Right, right.
So, you want to create an efficient place they could find videos, and you do a search for, Bay Area industrial, and you hit search, and you just get videos that have been tagged with both of those tags from different sources, and you can just watch one right after the other. It's really efficient. And yeah, we think it's going to be huge someday once we
No,
get it
I
out
mean,
there.
if
So,
you want market data and you want it quickly, yeah, you can go to CoStar, but if you actually have somebody that's in the market talking about that market, it
right.
seems like a much more effective way
Yeah.
to learn how
And
that
I
market.
love CoStar. They sponsor our events. I'm a huge fan. And I mean, I like what Andy Florence has done for the industry. I'm a huge fan, and I get that a lot. People say, "Hey, you're the CoStar for videos," and I say, "Yeah, but CoStar, as great as it is, it's the small band of marketing properties. If you go
Right.
on the review, you'll see videos about legal issues. You'll see videos about engineering. You'll see videos from events. You'll see videos about lending. So it's all the different topics besides just all the great videos about properties for sure, because there's a great template, a 2-minute video that people have created for marketing properties that zoom down from a satellite, and you keep getting closer and you have the voiceover, and those are great. But when you think about all the other topics that people are informing people about, we wanted to bring all of those in: charities, ESG, and all of that.
Well, just for fun, let's go share the site for just a minute and
Yeah,
kind of run through it. So here we are, we're in SF Commercial Properties,
right.
so you can go in and search on different producers, so to speak.
Right. So, for instance, like on that producer list, if you scroll up and go to, let's say, CBRE, Dan Blackwell, I like
Uh,
highlighting people who are amazing. So, Dan Blackwell,
oh,
look it
oh
up
yeah,
right there.
okay, all right. Let's
Search.
search on that one.
He's an apartment broker for CBRE in Orange County, and he gets in front of the camera. He tours properties. It's one thing to do voiceovers. It's another thing
Right.
to get in front of the camera, and he's got the great voice. Does a lot of my. He's on my multifamily panel a lot for my Orange County event,
Oh, that's
and
great.
so he's touring properties, and he brings in other brokers from his team to walk through. They show success stories. He gives like a market update every couple months on the number of sales in the market, and he is amazing. And if you go to one of his properties, you'll see, scroll down a little bit, see
Okay.
one that's up for sale. So grab one that's for sale. The
Just
walkthrough,
listed in 20 units
yeah,
here.
sure, hit that.
Okay, all
So
right.
you see, this is the viewing page that we see. So we try to create a better mousetrap, a better size screen. And if you scroll down, all the text, you'll see
Yeah,
the tags, and you'll see at the bottom there's a more info button, which
yeah,
takes you to
right.
the website. And then there's an open map button, which takes you to the map of the property. And the producers put those in when they put in the video. They copy in the link that they want to put into the field. They copy in the map link from Google. So they fill in all of this, and then this is how it's presented. So we're trying to, again, create a better research tool for the industry. So,
No,
and
that's
then,
fantastic.
yeah,
So then you can go to producers, you can have categories of different
right. So
appraisers.
if you clear Dan out of there on the producer's
Okay,
box,
let's clear
right?
him out.
And then
Okay.
you go to categories.
Yeah,
Um,
got all these different categories.
right. I mean, all the ones I could think of, and you get one crack at it because it's alphabetical. So I had to
Oh,
choose between,
yeah.
if I go lending finance or finance lending, so I went lending finance. All right. So, there's decisions you got to make when you're doing something like this. But people make videos about employment. People make videos about,
All these
all
different
different
categories.
topics that you see on LinkedIn, but then you can't find them afterwards. So here,
Yeah, that's true.
right?
Yeah,
And so I
right.
wanted to create a place, and some of these videos could be old, but they're still valuable. And then you could
Right.
combine search topics, so you could search,
Right.
you
You
could
got
search, just
biotech, cannabis, data centers,
so
all
for
that.
instance, if you go to like, multifamily, and you could go to, properties for sale, you'll see that it's just multifamily, properties, mixed use, there's a whole bunch of categories, but right under there.
Right,
So
right.
let's say you go to multifamily,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
then you go, let's say, go to state and go to California,
Oh, okay. All right. Go to California. All right.
right? And hit search.
Okay, here we go.
And then you'll see these are videos that deal with multifamily in California in some way. It's not necessarily
Yeah.
properties for sale because we didn't go to the category and choose
Yeah,
just
there we
properties
go.
for sale, but it might be a topic,
Yeah, exactly. So these are
right? And
all,
obviously, everyone that's yours, where you talk with someone who deals with multifamily, which is a lot of them. That's why those have came up.
yeah, yeah.
So again, and now someone could just sit there and watch video after video without having to leave this page and just absorb information.
This is
Um,
fantastic. No.
so
All right, I'm going to
yeah.
stop sharing here for a minute. Come back. All right. No,
I get
that's great.
excited, I feel like I'm throwing a fastball 130 miles an hour when when I'm showing people that site.
You and Warren Spahn were right out there. Okay. All right. Well, this has been very fun. Where can people get a hold of you, Stephen?
Well, the cell phone, anytime or text, 310-213-6409, or email, first initial, last name, S Bloom, like flowers, SBLOOM, at RENTV.com. The company name, RENTV, Nancy, Tom, Victor. Some people think it's an M or two T's, but it's just RENTV.com. And that's the website, Rent TV as well.
So if you're looking for information or you have information, get a hold of Stephen right now.
Yeah, I mean, if you're creating videos, we want them on the review. If you're doing press releases for news and transactions, you send them to us. That's how we get our news.
It's
So,
fantastic.
yeah.
All right.
All right,
Well,
Bruce.
it's great. Well, let's keep in touch. And
Yes.
before your next conference, let's have a little interview again, and we can kind of get people going to the conference.
Yeah, and we'll be promoting as we catch up on all the videos you've done. We'll certainly be promoting the highlight ones in your channel
That's
on the
fantastic.
review. So it's a great partnership and very appreciative.
Well, let's keep it up and keep all this good information out there for us.
It's a big industry, a lot of good people, so a lot of good stories. So it's great
Well,
to
and
have people like you and me telling them, I think.
that's well, you know what, the number one item people remember is the story. So we'll
So
keep the stories going.
I find a lot of our guests really inspiring, and I learn a lot from them. So it's great.
Absolutely, so true.
All
All
right,
right.
Bruce.
Well, this has been fantastic.
Thanks.
That's a wrap on today's journey through the SF commercial real estate scene. Ready to share your story? Visit sfcommercialconversations.com/guest. Your insights could lead the next conversation.